Every Christmas Eve, at exactly 11:47 p.m., a small red envelope appeared inside mailbox 214 at the downtown post office. The handwriting changed over the years. At first, messy, childish, then steadier, then older. But the message inside never really changed. Dear Santa, please wake my mom up this year. The first letter arrived in December of 2008. Ethan Brooks was 7 years old. That same year, his mother had fallen into a coma after a terrible car accident on an icy highway, 3 days before Christmas. Doctors said the chances of recovery were extremely low. But Ethan didn't understand percentages. He only understood one thing. Christmas was supposed to be magical, and magical things were supposed to fix broken people. So he wrote a letter to Santa Claus. Inside the envelope, he included a drawing of his mother smiling beside a Christmas tree. And at the bottom, he wrote, "I don't need presents this year. I just want my mom back." The letter should have disappeared into a pile of undelivered holiday mail, but it didn't. Because that winter, the night shift supervisor at the post office found it by accident. His name was Walter Grayson, 71 years old, widowed, quiet. The kind of man people passed every day without noticing. Walter had lost his wife 5 Christmases earlier, and since then, he hated December. The lights, the music, the fake happiness everywhere. So every year, he volunteered for overnight shifts, just to avoid going home to an empty apartment. That night, while sorting envelopes, Walter almost threw Ethan's letter away. Then he noticed the handwriting, small, uneven, desperate. Something about it made him stop. He sat beneath the dim sorting room light and slowly read every word. By the time he reached the final sentence, his hands were trembling. Because years earlier, Walter's own son had written letters exactly like that when his mother was dying from cancer. Walter stared at the page for a very long time, then quietly whispered, "Kid, I wish miracles worked that way." For reasons he couldn't explain, Walter took the letter home. The next morning, he bought a small Santa-themed card from a convenience store, and for the first time in years, Walter wrote something by hand. Dear Ethan, sometimes miracles take longer than we want, but love never leaves the people waiting for them. Keep talking to her. Love, Santa. A week later, Ethan received the reply. His father expected the boy to laugh. Instead, Ethan cried, then smiled, for the first time since the accident. And from that moment on, everything changed. Every Christmas, Ethan wrote another letter. And every Christmas, Walter replied. At first, the letters were simple. School, loneliness, missing his mother, reading Christmas stories beside her hospital bed. Walter answered carefully, always signing the letters the same way. Love, Santa. Years passed. Ethan grew older, and his letters became more honest. At age 10, sometimes I think she can still hear me. At 13, I know Santa probably isn't real now, but I still think you are. At 16, Dad started dating someone else. I feel guilty for being angry. Walter answered every letter, not perfectly, but truthfully. And slowly, without realizing it, the old man began healing too, because Ethan's letters gave him purpose again. Every December, Walter waited for the red envelope. It became the most important part of his year. Then came Christmas, number 15. By then, Ethan was 22 years old, and for the first time, no letter arrived. Walter checked mailbox 214 again, and again, and again. Nothing. Days passed. Still nothing. A strange emptiness settled inside him. He told himself it didn't matter. Kids grow up. Lives move on. But deep down, Walter felt something close to heartbreak. Then, 3 days after Christmas, a final envelope appeared. But this one looked different. The handwriting was shaky, rushed. Walter opened it carefully. Inside was only one sentence. "Santa, I think this might be my last letter." Below the sentence was a hospital address. That same night, Walter drove across the city through heavy snow, and when he arrived, he found Ethan sitting alone beside a bed. Older now, tired, eyes hollow from years of hope and exhaustion. Machines beeped softly around the room, and there, beneath dim hospital light, lay Ethan's mother, still unmoving. After 15 years, Walter suddenly realized something heartbreaking. This boy had never truly stopped waiting. Ethan looked up slowly. "You came." Walter tried to speak, but emotion caught in his throat. Finally, he whispered, "You stopped writing." Ethan gave a weak smile. "I didn't want Santa to see me give up." For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Ethan quietly asked, "Were you the one writing back all these years?" Silence filled the room. Walter looked at the woman in the hospital bed, then at the young man, who had unknowingly saved him from loneliness for over a decade. And finally, Walter smiled softly. Yes. Ethan began crying immediately. Not loud sobs, just quiet tears from someone emotionally exhausted. "You saved my life," he whispered. Walter shook his head. "No, kid. You saved mine." Then Ethan said something Walter would never forget. "I always knew Santa wasn't real, but I think kindness is." That night, for the first time in 15 years, Walter and Ethan sat together beside the hospital bed, talking until sunrise. About grief, about waiting, about love that refuses to disappear. And just before morning came, something impossible happened. A nurse suddenly rushed into the room. Monitors began changing rapidly. Doctors flooded inside. Ethan froze, because after 15 years, his mother squeezed his hand. Only once. Small, weak, but real. The doctors called it involuntary movement, random nerve response, nothing more. But Ethan cried anyway, because sometimes, after years of darkness, even the smallest movement feels like a miracle. Months later, Walter passed away peacefully in his sleep. No close family, no funeral crowd. Just one young man standing quietly beside the grave, Ethan, holding a final red envelope. Inside was the last letter Walter had ever written. "Dear Ethan, if you're reading this, it means I finally get to spend Christmas with my wife again. Thank you for giving an old man something to believe in one more time. And remember this, people don't need magic to save each other. Sometimes they only need someone willing to answer the letter. Love, Santa."